In order to know whether there really is a God, I want to understand what that God is like. So I'm going to ask you an unusual question in that if God exists, what is it like to be God? What does God feel like in God's own being?
I think we can know something about what it feels like to be God. Part of that comes from, if you start as a Christian, you believe that the best thing that can happen to us, the most joyous thing, the most beautiful thing, is the beatific vision, the actual vision of God. We're only ever going to see a bit of it. We're never going to really comprehend the whole. So if it's that great to see just a bit, it's got to be a lot greater to see the whole. And that's what God sees. And so if the beatific vision is a great thing for us, we can infer from that, I think, that it feels great to be God. Beyond that, well, God knows absolutely everything. And whereas we sometimes don't think about the things we know, God's infinite and perfect mind always has all of his knowledge in mind at once. And so it's like a constant eureka, because he's seeing all the truth. Furthermore, God always feels, at least according to Christian belief, limitless love toward his creatures. And sometimes he is intimately aware of the fact that some of us love him back. And so there's, well, you know the moment where you love somebody and you realize they love you back? Well, there's that infinitely, forever. So there's the beatific vision, there's the infinite eureka, there's the infinite love.
There's also a great deal of suffering in the world. People suffer all the time, and if you look at evolution, untold billions of creatures suffered terribly. God must suffer as well.
Some theologians have held that God is impassible, that he has no negative emotions at all. I don't believe that myself. I think that if we suffer and God is aware of our suffering and God loves us, there must be some negative experience in God that corresponds to that. So a fuller understanding of what God's experience would be like, I think, would be to say that it's thoroughly mixed. There's all the good stuff that I just mentioned, and there's also the negative feelings that go with appreciating the sufferings of his creatures. However, God's perspective on creaturely suffering has to be different than ours, because he sees not just what's going on now, but the ends for which it serves. And so his perception of the suffering is mitigated by the fact that he's always seeing it in the context of the good for the sake of which it's allowed.
If I knew everything and I could do everything, then I, in one sense, would have nothing to look forward to. I would have no sense of excitement about the future, and I have no ability to be creative and no ability to achieve anything. That is a significant deficit.
If God is temporal, many people would argue that he couldn't really know the future. If that's true, then he doesn't know exactly what's coming in all its details. Some of it is left for us to work out, and some of it we work out in partnership with him. So that part is certainly something he can be creative about, can have expectations about, can learn about as time goes on, if he's temporal.
But you don't believe that.
Right. I think that God is atemporal. So what I would say is this. Even within an atemporal being, some things presuppose other things. Some people say that the truths of mathematics are atemporal, and some people say that you can arrange some of the truths of mathematics, at least in an axiomatic system, in which certain premises would dictate certain conclusions. If both those things are right, some atemporal truths are based on other atemporal truths. If God is atemporal, everything in him is there, so to speak, all at once. But some things presuppose other things. That's not learning some things after others, but it is having a quality in his experience that would not have been there otherwise had he not had certain aims, planned time to go a certain way, and then seen from outside of time that it does go more or less that way. So there's something like creativity, something like learning, even in an atemporal God, because there's some knowledge that is there only because of logically prior intentions, plans, and execution.
So it's good to be God?
Definitely.